Hello, welcome to the Rooted Souls podcast. My name is Becca Spear and I will be your hostess. Here I am offering you talks on spirituality and self-development that bring you back down to earth. Bridging the gap between ethereal ideas and mindful realism. These talks illuminate the magic in the mundane and facilitate discernment in the far out for a life rooted in wisdom. This podcast is for conscious seekers who are just opening up to spirituality and personal growth, or those of you who've been on that journey for a while, and you're realizing that things just are not what they seemed at first, or for those who are anywhere in between. I am so glad you're here. I invite you to either take a walk or sit down and relax with something nice and warm to drink, and just let this wash over you. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and just know that this is my gift to you. I hope that it serves you. I am so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy the show. After I finished recording this episode, I continued to chat with Vicki, and she told me such a good story, I couldn't help but share it with you all. So here it is, and then we'll jump right into the show. Enjoy. Can you give me your best animal communication story? If there's any non-believers, what is the one story that could win us over?
So it would be the rabbit. A rabbit. This was my first communication the weekend that I took my class, and we were at a self-sustained farm. So they had rabbits, they had sheep, they had chickens, chickens raised for eggs and for meat, rabbits raised for meat and to trade and things like that. And so there was a whole row of rabbit hutches. And we were basically, free reign, go out and communicate and see what you get. And, so you'd run into the other students and stuff. And there was a couple of us that were over by the rabbit hutches, and there was the lady who owned the farm. She was there, or she had told us that there's a pregnant rabbit, obviously very pregnant rabbit. And a couple of us separately we decided together to ask the rabbit separately if she knew how many babies she was going to have. And so we asked, and we all came back, and the rabbit had told us 6. And we found out later that the rabbit had 6 babies. So that was pretty amazing.
That's cool.
And then there was at the end of the hutch, there was a buck, so a breeding male rabbit. And I went down and I went to talk to him, and I, in my head communicated, hi, how are you? And this was like this is my first weekend of doing animal communication. I'm still learning. And this rabbit came back, and this was one of the few times that I've heard a voice, and it was a New York taxi cab driver voice, like with the accent and the whole thing, like from Brooklyn or whatever. I'm not great with accents, but it was totally like that. Like, what do you want? And it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm a little scared of this rabbit right now. And I said, I'm just wondering how you like it on the farm, how your life is, if, there's anything you want to tell me. And he says immediately, I am just here to bleep and eat. And I'm like, oh my hell. Okay.
Wow.
That is stunning. Thank you. I'm terrified. And I walked away, and I went over to one of the other girls who was in the class, and I go, have you talked to the rabbit down at the end? The male, the buck? She goes, no. And I go, could you just go down and talk to him and see what you get? And she went down and she communicated with him, and she comes back, and her mouth is like, her jaw is like, on the floor. She comes back, she's like, oh my God. And I go, what? And she goes, that is like an evil pit from hell, that rabbit. I'm like, okay, yeah. I go, what did he say to you? He said he's just here to make babies. And I'm like, yeah, that's basically what he said to me too. From a rabbit, a cute little fluffy rabbit is like this evil carnation, basically reincarnation. I mean, he wasn't evil. He was a little terrifying to have that come out of a rabbit. So that was, both of us were completely floored. And yeah, that was probably the most, I mean, after that, it was like, this is a thing. this is a thing. There's no denying it. This is a thing.
That's fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that little story. I sure did. And here we go with the episode. Today's episode is animal communication, and I have with me Vicki Hager from Washington State. So her day job is as a paralegal, but during her free time, she is an animal communicator. She also does Reiki and works with crystals. She also sells crystals and has a Facebook shop. And she has a big, beautiful heart. So Vicki and I connected through Facebook just a few years ago. I had posted in a spiritual group asking if animal communicators, anyone in the group, could tell me why my cat was pooping and peeing inside and outside the box. Like if she was doing something, if she wanted two different boxes or what was going on. And a bunch of people naturally left their links for me to book our sessions with them. And at this time I was really skeptical. So I didn't really want to book a session. I just wanted to know, if animal communication was real, and I, wanted to know why my cat was doing this. And Vicki Hager stuck out because she said, I'm happy to help. And she sent me a private message and answered my question, which ended me up going to the vet. And I can say that Vicki and I continued to communicate, and she essentially saved my cat's life. I'd say that Vicki's really helped me tune into my cat, and to be able to know when something was wrong or know how to, sense what was going on with her. So thank you, Vicki, for that. And also she went above and beyond and sent me a care package with crystals. And she did all of this out of the kindness of her own heart. So I'd say that her generosity and kind spirit has also impacted my life and facilitated me to be more generous and open-hearted. So, I'm grateful for all that you've done for me and also the example you've set. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for being such a good friend and such a love and light in this world. Welcome, Vicki. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm going to start crying.
Well, tears are welcome on this show. So, Vicki, where do you want to get started? My biggest question is, what is animal communication? Like I said, it's something that I didn't believe in, but I was desperate. And so maybe people come to you when they are feeling desperate, but I do believe some people, this is something that they generally believe in. But for those listeners that don't or have never heard of it, what is animal communication?
So animal communication is actually something that anybody can actually do. If we have pets, we love our pets dearly. We talk to them, right? We talk to them, oh, baby, how you doing? We talk to our animals all the time. And sometimes we think that we hear them and, in our heads, we may actually voice their words back to us. That's actually not too far from, if you have a close bond with your pet, that actually can be what they are thinking and saying. Sometimes it's not, but it's a form of telepathy where it's communicating in different ways through your thoughts, basically, with an animal. We can go into the clairs if you want to, so people can understand different ways that the telepathy at the clairvoyance, the different clairs, how images or words or whatever comes through to different people.
So we actually have a whole episode on psychicism, so people can go check out psychicism if they want to learn more about that. And as you're describing that voice, I work with my own clients, helping them develop their own psychic gifts. And so when people think of clairaudience, most people think, I don't have that, because they're not hearing this external sound and voice.
Right.
But it's our own thoughts. It's often in our own voice. It's just kind of a different flavor that you can get to perceive when you practice more and definitely learn more about the different ways that it comes through. So, maybe I spoke too soon. Why don't you go ahead and go over the clairs in the animal way?
Well, I can explain how my clairs work with animals. So there's clairaudience, which is the hearing, and I don't usually get that a lot. sometimes I may hear, a voice. I mean, it has happened. I will give you an example at some point of a clairaudience that was very intense. Clairvoyance is the seeing, and that's like the pictures or like movie clips. I get that a lot. There's clairsentience, which is the feeling, the emotions. I also get that. And then there's the cognizance, which is the knowing. And that is the one that I personally get the most, where it's just like, I may go into a session with a question or two that the owner wants to know. And before I even am able to ask the question, like in my head, I'm going in with the question like on paper, and it's like automatically it just comes to me as a knowing. So my communications can sometimes go very, very quickly because that's the one that is strongest with me. And most people have one. I mean, most people have one or two that are stronger than others. So yeah.
So what is your process when somebody comes to you? What was your process when I came to you? I remember you asked me for a photo of her, the most recent one possible.
Yes.
And then basically you just got back to me with a bunch of text. You wrote out all the things that you figured out, and I went and confirmed that with a vet visit.
And my process has changed a little bit, and it depends on the situation. And I probably really should hone this a little bit more, but so my process is, yes, I do prefer to have a picture with at least one eye facing the camera. Eyes are the, it's secret into the soul, right? Passage into the soul. And I like to know the name of the pet, and approximate age, just so I know whether I'm going to be dealing with like a hyper puppy or, a slower, older dog or pet, whatever. And then I will usually go into, I have to be in the right frame of mind. So I have to kind of go into a meditative state and then have the picture usually in front of me and just, talk to the pet. A lot of times I will ask, especially if we know that the pet is skittish or like a rescue or has a fear issue, I will commonly ask the owner to communicate to the pet, hey, let them know that a friend, somebody who is who is coming in. I've got long dark hair, I've got glasses, and just to kind of visualize and send them a picture of what I look like so they know that I'm a friend coming in.
I remember when you had me do that, now that you mention it.
So that is the common thing that I do, because otherwise you may startle. I mean, especially if you have a really protective or a really fearful pet, like a dog. I mean, you may startle and they're like, I'm not talking to you. I don't know who you are. And they're, I've had animals that are really standoffish, and it's like, okay, I forgot to do this little step. Let's do that step, and then everything's fine. So that's kind of the process. And it's like, I try to get some kind of verifying information that basically I can pass along to the owner. So it's like, whether it's where they like to sleep or what kind of food that they like or their favorite toy or something like that, so that they know that I'm not like, just make it's so easy for people, right, to just make stuff up. And it's like, oh, of course your pet loves you and wants to be with you all the time, and everybody's like, oh, it's so warm and fuzzy, I love this. And of course people want to hear that, and it's like, no, I got to give you some verifying information so that you know that this is actually coming from your pet and this is actually a true thing.
So what are the kinds of things that people come to you for, or what are the kinds of things that animals want us to know?
Oh, well, those are two different things. So people will come to me to find out if their pet is feeling okay. Medical issues are a lot of times, why people will come, and I am able to do, and not all animal communicators are able to, but I'm able to do a medical, I don't want to say medical, but I'm able to do like a body scan. So I do have animal massage training and acupressure training in my background. And so I'm able to do like a scan kind of on their body and feel it comes through on my body. And where if I start to feel pain, it's like, okay, is that me? Did I bump into the wall and now, my shoulder's hurting, or is that the pet? And so I have to, double check to make sure, is that me? Is that the pet? and it's like, okay, I'm feeling heat here, or I'm feeling like achy. Okay, maybe they're arthritic. It's really common for, to find arthritis in pets, but it's like, you have to make sure, is it arthritis? Is it feeling achy? Is it feeling like arthritis? Or is it, a bump they ran into the wall? Or is it because they slept too much on the one side last night? So, you don't want to freak out a pet parent, and go, oh, they're arthritic. I'm not a vet. I can't make diagnosis like that. I mean, I can say I feel something, in my lower back that makes me think, I'm feeling it kind of like by my kidneys. And, I've had kidney issues, so I know what that feels like. Or, I'm feeling this pain in my right wrist. And it's like, that's not something that I've been having recently. So, are they limping? Are they doing this? Are they compensating? And then because of the massage kind of background, I can also give some suggestions as to maybe these are some strokes that you can do, or pressure points that you can, acupressure points that you can use to help.
Well, and part of my guard, I didn't tell you she was 3-legged when I reached out to you. I wanted to give you limited information because I was super skeptical, and you pinpointed exactly where on her body she was feeling pain. And I think you even said, I don't think you said why. Maybe you did say why. This was early on in your practice,
Yes.
But whatever you said was specific enough to give me pause, and to give my parents pause, who don't believe in any of this stuff, or they didn't at the time. They've seen enough evidence from me now. They're starting to they're starting to open up. But yeah, the other question is, what do animals want us to know? And, can we do this without formal training?
Yes, you can do this without formal training. The training that I had was literally 2 days on a farm, which was fascinating. There was a group of us, and it was fascinating and really confirming. I'm like, I don't know. I went into it. It's like, I don't know if this is a thing. I've always felt really close to animals, but I don't know. And going through it for 2 days, it was like, wow. The experiences that, we had, it was intense. So that's a really validating thing, is to be able to go through an official kind of training. But it was only 2 days. But you can do it. It's really hard with our own pets, is a thing. It's because we are so closely bonded with them, and we already have given them a goofy character voice, whether it's a Snoopy, or whether
How do
it's
you know?
Marmaduke or whatever. We give our pets voices. And so, it's hard to get past that sometimes. And it is really hard with our own pets to be able to communicate and get past our own emotional baggage that we have with them. Or they mostly, what they want us to know is that we are loved. Our animals have picked us, even if we got them as a rescue, even if we got them from the side of the road, even if we bought them from a breeder, whatever. Our animals, just like our guardian angels, our spirit team, whatever you want to call them, have picked us way before we were born. We went into, we were going off the woo-woo, off the super woo. We have a team, like, I don't want to say a contract, but we have a bond, our spirit team, and our animals are part of that spirit team. And so and I don't want to say it's fate, because it's not fate, but it's basically written out as to who our animals are going to be before we even start our life. And so they each have something to teach us. And each animal is different. A lot of times it's patience. That's a big one, but they're teaching us something in their life as well as in their death, which is a big thing that people have a hard time with. And we can go into the whole death thing, because that's another thing that people will come to me frequently about. And they're teaching us something all the way through. And even when they are past, they are still teaching us things, and they're still coming to us. And that is something that I also do, is I communicate with animals after they have passed. And so, having and yeah. You could just get me on a road, and I'll just keep going on and on about this.
Well, what is different between communicating with a living animal and an animal that's dead?
So the first thing that's different is, and this may sound really strange, like this whole thing doesn't sound strange, right? Um, so the first thing is that when an animal first passes, it's like, I kind of equate it to they just moved to a different town. And so they're trying to get their bearings. And so it's kind of like if you try to communicate with them too soon, like in the first couple of weeks, it's usually staticky, almost like a TV station that's back in the day when we didn't have cable, or a radio station or something, that's kind of not quite on the right spot. So it's a little fuzzy and staticky. You may get some, but probably not very clear. And it's almost like they have to go and get like their papers and figure out what their job is, because a lot of times they have jobs, in the afterlife, and they have to kind of settle in and figure out, okay, this is where I'm at now, this is what I do now, and they also have to understand, get to the adjustment part, that time and space doesn't mean anything. So, in the world, the three-dimensional world that we live in, time and space is everything, right? You can only be in one place at any given time. Whereas in the afterworld, they can be in multiple places at the same time, and they are frequently. And so they have to kind of adapt and figure that part out too. And once they figure that out, their biggest thing once they pass is usually, how's my person? Do they know that I'm checking on them? Are they getting the hints that I'm giving them? Are they seeing me out of the corner of their eye? Are they feeling me on their bed? Are they, because they come back, they absolutely come back to you. And so that's more the things that they want to know. Are they, is my human getting my hints? And in person, I mean, in living, it's, it's more like, do they know how much I love them? Do they know how much I'm here for them? That they are my person? Or if you have a 2-person household, or I prefer this person over this person. I really want my bed in this particular corner, or this is where I like to sleep. And it's, it's more kind of things like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of aspect to it. It is very much loving. I mean, no matter whether it's living or past, it is very much loving. And but to kind of segue into, when people contact me about, is my animal ready to pass? Should I help them? This is a big thing to know, that a lot of times your animal, your pet, is holding on until you are okay with it. And once they know that you are okay, then they're okay with going. But that is the thing that is usually holding them on, having them hold on, is they want to make sure that their person understand that they're loved and that they're not going anywhere. They may kind of disappear a little bit for a couple of weeks, but they will be back. You will smell them, you will hear them, you will feel them against your leg or on your bed. You'll feel the weight shift on your bed. I mean, all of the different things. There's so many different ways that they come to you. The first and easiest way is in your dreams, but they come to you in so many different ways. And yeah, so it's all love. It's all love.
That is so sweet. Just thinking, I think my last animal that I was still the owner of when she passed away, it was almost 20 years ago. And I still dream about her. And I remember the week that she first died, or at least for the last couple months, I wasn't living at my parents' house. I was at college, but when I would visit, I'd see her out of the corner of my eye. And it was so weird. And that was upsetting. Like, it kept reminding me that she was dead. But I definitely see that transition point.
She was doing that to remind you that she's still there with you.
Aww.
Not to make you sad, but it's like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still here. And it's like, I can be with you whether you're at your parents' house, or I can be with you when you're at college. I can be with you wherever you go. I'm with you. And so it's once you understand kind of their thought process in passing, it can actually be fairly reassuring. And it's actually, I mean, if we want to go into it, I mean, I've been with a couple animals who have passed, and this sounds weird, but it is actually one of the most beautiful things that you can imagine. I mean, it's like angel filled and spirit filled, and it's, yeah.
Well, I've heard the same from people with human passing.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that I have an episode on death Demystified. If you haven't heard it, check it out. It's powerful. And I think our culture really distances ourselves from death. And then when it happens, it's a huge shock.
Yes.
And that there is this reverence that we can have for it. And when we do, we can have a very different relationship to it.
Yes.
And so what's so fascinating about this conversation is we can have a different relationship to our living animals than many of us realized.
It's our baggage. It's our baggage about death. It's not our pet's baggage about death. Death does not scare them because they know they're going to continue. And so it's our baggage. It's like we're sad that we're not going to have Buddy on the bed with us anymore. And it's like, that's bull. Buddy is still going to be on the bed with you. I mean, you're if you pay attention, you will feel the weight shift. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing, that the transition, and it's, yeah.
How is it different from human?
Well, I haven't experienced human in person. I have experienced 2 pets in the last couple of years. Actually, during the 2 years of COVID, I've had 2 pets that have passed, and I helped a friend through another pet that has passed. And the first one I did on my own. My husband was at work, and I had to do it was bad. He woke my cat woke up paralyzed. His hind end was paralyzed, so I had to take him in. It was like they think he threw a blood clot, so it was like a sudden kind of thing. And so I had to take him in and have him put down. And it was my spirit guides are in the upper left corner of that's where the light is at. That is where they are. That is just where they hang. And I was in the room, and they give you, a few minutes before they come in and to put your pet down, and a light came on, and there was this crowd, and there were my past pets. There were people who my angels guides who I don't know yet. I'm still learning them, and people who I do know, but there was several of my pets, and it was like they're like, we're here. We're ready for him. And it's like, okay. And when the vet came in and did the euthanasia, the shot thing, I heard it, and I'm not a big hearer of things, but I heard it. We got him. And it was like, oh my God, they got him. He's there. They got him. And it was just so, and so I'm going to probably start crying now. It was so reassuring and so beautiful. And it was like, oh my God, he's there. He's got a team that's with him, that, people and animals that he knows, and that, are there to welcome him, and he's going to be okay. And the next time, which was only like 7 months later, we had to put down another one of our cats, and out comes Bubba walking through the pack, and here's Bubba, and he goes, "Hey, Mom." And it was like, oh, my Bubba, there's my Bubba.
Oh.
And he looked great. He was fat, he was fantastic. He had lost weight. He was like, and that's the thing, when they pass, they revert to their best day. So, whether, if they were in pain at the end, they're not in pain anymore. They are living like their best day every day. And so he could walk and he could move. And like I said, he had lost weight and he looked great. And it was like, awesome. And then he's like, we're going to do the same thing for Chloe that they did for me. And it's like, okay. And then they did the same thing, and it's like arms outreached, and it's like, we're ready for her. And then we got her, and it was like, okay, it's my baggage. Death is my baggage. It's not their baggage. And this has changed my perspective about death. And, yeah, both cats are happy. They come back to me and they talk, and yeah, it's actually, crazy to say that death can be a beautiful thing, but if you can see it, if you can hear it, it actually is a beautiful thing.
Well, I look forward to having a conversation with you after you listen to that death episode, because I think there's more dialogue between us to be had there. So when you have you talked to other pet communicators?
Yes, I have talked to others.
Do they have similar experiences, or is this something that you were taught and then now you can validate, or is it something that you kind of stepped into and through your own process started realizing that this was the case for you?
So that first weekend when I did the animal communication, I was interested in it. I didn't know, I've had experiences in the past with animals, and where like animals have like sought me out kind of in a weird kind of way. And so I suspected there might be something there. It's like, okay, if there's something there, I'll know that there's something there. And that weekend, it was clear that there was something there. And since then, it's just been more, I'll say things to people, it's like, hey, I'm getting this, or I'm getting this, or this is coming through. Because a lot of times now I'll do it via Zoom or via phone call. I won't always do it like how I did with you, where I go on my own. Sometimes I'll just do it on the fly, so to speak, because I'm learning that clear cognizance, the knowing comes through so fast that I don't necessarily have to do it in my own time. I have to be in my right from my brain anyway. So yeah, I mean, I've learned my process better, I guess. I don't know. Where was I going?
Well, we were just talking about if you were told that this was the reality and you've started to believe it, or if through your own experience this kind of showed up and you're like, well, this is true for me. And if other pet communicators have similar experiences, you're all having the same experience because that's what you were told, or it's actually what you're feeling, what's showing up for you.
A lot of people who I've talked to who are animal communicators, we've always had a draw towards animals, and animals have been drawn towards us. And this was kind of like something that we were interested in. And it's like, let's test it out. Let's see. I mean, I went in and I was skeptical. I was very skeptical. But that weekend, like I said, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. And then, like I said, afterwards, it's like I would get things. And as I tell people things, it's like, okay, I'm getting this, or I'm getting this, or this is I don't know if this means something to you. I don't know if this means something to you. And I'd be like, people will say, well, yeah, that's a thing. And I'd be like, what? Really? That's a thing? And so it's like, I'm surprised by it repeatedly as I'm talking to people. It's like, because you don't always know. I mean, animals speak differently than we do, which is why I think in my head, or maybe it's just my clairs, I don't get the hearing so much from them. I get pictures and I get movie clips and I get the knowing. And so it's like, okay, well, there's this thing, there's like this blue blanket that I'm seeing. And is there a blue blanket in your house? Does your pet like this particular blue blanket? And it's like, oh yeah, there's this blue blanket that they really, he likes to lay on or whatever. It's like, oh, well, that's okay. That's what that is. Or, one time I had a person who I kept saying, there's this treat that your dog likes that's in a plastic, like a clear plastic wrapper, like, and it has purple, it's partially clear. It's like shaped like a dog cookie, like a dog bone cookie, and it has purple on the top of it, and then the rest of it's kind of clear, and it has purple and yellow on the bottom of it. I can't tell what the writing is. She's like, no, there's nothing like that. I don't have anything like that. And 2 days later, she called me and she goes, oh my God, I have this box of these cookies, these dog cookies that are in my garage. I had totally forgotten about them, and they're sitting right on the garage counter. And it's a box of these cookies, and that's exactly, they're individually wrapped, and there's purple on the top. And I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding. So it's like, I get shocked by it. But, a lot of people, who do this, I mean, the more you do it, the more you understand that it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it happens whether you want it to or not sometimes, especially with past pets. I mean, occasionally I'll be talking to somebody and a past pet will come through, and it's like, why is there this dog circling my legs? What is going on? It's like I'm just having a conversation with somebody in my office and there's this dog like circling me, and the dog's like, tell my person I'm here, tell my person. And it's like, okay, I'm working in a law office. I can't, they're going to kick me out the door. So, everybody works differently. It depends on their clairs too, as to how, everybody comes into this field differently. But we all have love for animals. So,
well, and this is also relatable for me as a human intuitive, and that this is our baggage, right? So I still repeatedly am surprised by my ability to pick up on other people. So it is our baggage, our unwillingness to truly accept this, that keeps us surprised or that keeps us in disbelief. But then the proof is in the pudding, and it's like, wow, all over again. And I wonder if I'll ever get used to it. I'm always surprised when I have this inkling or say something, I'm like, I've never used that phrase before. And people are dumbfounded. They're like, I was just about to say that.
Yes.
So I can totally relate. And what's so neat about the animal piece is they don't have baggage. So I bet they're even easier to communicate or pick up on than I experienced with humans. And, you had sent me a course to try out years ago, and I was resistant, and I had a million reasons why I didn't have time for it, but you're reinvigorating my inspiration and desire to check it out. So I will. Yes. And part of my excitement of discovering and discussing this with you is because I'm totally drawn to it as well. Yes. And I think that one of the things that had me start trusting you is, one, the data was there from the get-go, but also your skepticism, right? Yeah. This whole show I have here is about being skeptical and analytical and really looking at empirical evidence and rational thought with the spiritual. And you're a wonderful example of that. And I haven't talked to other pet communicators, but I obviously connected to you for a reason. And I really appreciate the reverence you have for this work, but also the realism and the discernment that, is this real or, is it fantasy? So back to the animals. Do they have a concept of time, the living ones?
Yes. They do have a concept of time. Now, it's not quite like our concept of time. So one of the things that I suggest to people is, especially if you have an anxious or a separation anxiety pet, if you're going away, say for overnight, or you're going away for a couple of days or whatever, tell them, whenever you leave, always say, bye, I'm leaving. I'll be back in a little bit. It won't be that long, it'll be fine. Or I'll be back right after it gets dark, so when it starts to get dark, they don't freak out, right? So, and as you're saying it, you're picturing dark in your head. So you're showing it to them, right? And if you're leaving for a couple of days, say that you're leaving for like 4 darks. Right. So beautiful. I'm leaving for 4 darks. So it's like, okay, so there'll be four darks and 5 lights, and then I'll be back. So they understand kind of that concept of time. So it's a little different than ours. Because, right, when you go to the store or something and you come back and your dog's like, oh my God, you've been gone for 3 years. And it's like, well, it's been like a half an hour, but to them, it seems like 3 years. So doing that, especially with the darks, just seems to make a big difference, especially with separation anxiety or all of our COVID pets, all the pets that everybody got during COVID, who are so used to having their parents home during the day and night and all the time. And now if they're starting to have to go back to work, people are having to go back to work, and their pets are like, I don't understand this at all. This doesn't make any sense. And so you have to kind of explain it to them. You have to kind of explain in their terms, because they do have different terms for things.
This is so helpful. Is there anything else you want to share with us that we should know?
There's so many things. Yes. Okay. Big, huge thing. If I can relay to everybody, the biggest reason that I started my business is I got into crystals basically to remind us I want that crystals have energy, right? They all have energy. And I wanted the crystals for pets as well as for us to remind us. I won't say this in my normal, very colorful way that I would say this, to keep our stress together, basically, right? Because if we come home and we're super stressed from our job or we're super stressed from life, our pets are so sensitive to energy, whether it's, spiritual, emotional, physical, any of that stuff that's going on with us. They're so sensitive to it that it can actually cause them to be sick. And so whether we're realizing it or not, we are bringing our stress and our baggage and our crap and all of our stuff, and our pets are picking up on it and they're living with it, and they are trying to calm us down and to help relieve our anxiety or whatever as much as they can, but they don't always have the tools. And they're trying to communicate with us, but we have our baggage in the way and all of our stuff's in the way, and so it doesn't always get through. And so that's the reason I started the crystal business, was mostly for like bracelets and jewelry and crystals to be in the room and whatever with us, to help counteract our stress and counteract our baggage, and to remind us, whether it's a bracelet on our wrist or whether it's a necklace around our neck or whatever, or a stone in our pocket or a crystal in our bra, whatever the hell, to remind us, it's like, keep ourselves in check, because we don't need to bring that extra stress and do that to our pet. I mean, they're here, all they come to us with is love, and we need to show them the care and the respect and the love that they deserve. They're not with us for very long. I mean, they're all with us way too short of a time. I don't care if you have a cat that's luckily to live with you for 20 years, it's still too short of a time. And so, give them all the love and all the caring that you can while you can. And keep our stuff in check, because you want to keep them healthy.
Yeah, I'd hope that you're a reason, to the people listening, that you're the reason enough to keep your anxiety in check. Yeah. But if not for yourself, for your animals.
Yes.
I say that in jest. It's a bit codependent, but we, looking at it holistically, take care of yourself for you.
Yes. Absolutely.
And be mindful, as you would with a friend or a partner, as would be healthy. How am I bringing myself to the table? Am I being my best self when I'm in relationship with another? So that is so beautiful that you brought that up. And I think my last question might be around other beings, other animals. So insects, elephants, snakes, people have some of these as pets, but out in nature, communicating with wild animals, or unfortunately animals that might be in captivity. Is that different?
It is different, because they have a different perspective on life, right? They're not matched with us pre-determination. We didn't sign up with, in a contract with them. And so it is different. I've always gotten to, I don't know if I should go down this road, but I've always been sad, super sad, when I go to zoos, or when I've gone to like dolphins in captivity or whales in captivity. I've always been super sad. And this was before the movie Blackfish, or any of the documentaries, or any of the public outrage, or any of that kind of stuff. It's always made me sad. And it's like, I love dolphins and I love killer whales, and I absolutely, I actually at one point in my life wanted to be a marine biologist, to study them, animals, all the way through my life. But I've realized now that it's like, the reason that it always made me sad was because they're sad. They're not in the environment that they should be in. A concrete pond is not where a dolphin or a killer whale should be. A cage is not necessarily where a tiger should be. Now, I will say that, like, rehabilitation, or animals who have been injured, and I think that zoos and rehab places are important, because how else are we going to see how a tiger acts, or how a, orangutan acts, or any, right? We can't really, we can learn a lot more from them when we can, raise our kids around them and do, go see them and different things like that. So they get interested in them, because we can't just run out to, Costa Rica and, or whatever, hang out in the jungle with them. So at least, you get to see them. But I think there's I mean, that's a whole different road. I mean, there's a big balancing act, right? And, they're not always, if they're born in captivity, they don't know any different, right? And so, they're just happy they have mom there, and they get to swing from trees, and they get food, and, they're, better with it, because they don't know any different. Elephants are, I haven't communicated with any elephants, but I mean, if you watch anything, any information about elephants, they're super attached, they're super bonded, their memories are insane. I mean, they have huge brains, they have emotions, they have grief, they have love, they have, I mean, we can also go into the whole topic of, whether animals have emotion and, remembrance and, grief and all that. Of course they do. Absolutely they do. And they have senses of humor, and they have, all of the things they have the things that humans have. And what do they say? Don't I can't remember what the word I'm saying. Don't do that to animals. Well, you know what? They do have feelings, and they do care, and they do have love and compassion, and they have these things, and they have these things for humans. And they're so much better than us, because they don't always, I mean, some do have baggage because of what has happened to them in, the past, but they also have the ability to heal better than we do, heal quicker than we do over a trauma. They don't hold it against somebody like we do.
So what about insects?
So I am not a fan of many insects. So my communication that I've had with most insects is usually, please stay away from me. Because my automatic, if a mosquito lands on me, my automatic reaction is going to slap at it, right? That's not an intentional harm. It's just, it's an automatic reaction. And so if I'm out sitting by a fire or out at night, and there are mosquitoes around, I will have the conversation. I'll send out into the world around me, please do not land on me, because I may accidentally harm you, and I don't want to do that. And so it's the same thing with pets. If you're trying to relay something to them, it's like, I don't want to have to put you in your crate, but if you keep on peeing on the floor, or whatever your training may be, you have to visualize all the things for them, so they understand why they shouldn't do the thing. And it's not because you're going to get mad. It's like, because something is going, there's going to be there's something is going to, you're not going to get to go out and play with your stick or your ball or whatever. So they understand why it's a bad thing to do it. So don't land on me, please, because I may automatically slap at you, and I may hurt you, and it's not my intention. It's just an automatic. So that's, mosquitoes don't usually land on me, so I don't know if it's working. I don't usually get much feedback from them.
Well, it's a great distinction. They don't speak our verbal language. So speaking to them in energy and imagery, because that's something that they get. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. And that's how to me, that's how they communicate with me. And that's why,
Well, now you got me thinking all about how long insects live and all their contracts. But I think this is a great summary. I think this has opened up the topic for people to get a little taste of. And if people want to reach Vicki for one-on-one animal communication coaching, she is available. I will link her information in the episode description. The best way to reach her is Instagram or Facebook. She also has virtual crystal sales through her Facebook page. I will link all that information. Vicki, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this today. It's important work. It's work most of us don't think about. So thank you for opening our eyes and our hearts to it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
See you next time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for listening and becoming part of this community. If you love this episode, I invite you to subscribe, share with someone you think would appreciate it, or leave a review. This helps me to learn what resonates with you so I can deliver more of what you want and reach more people who can benefit from this content. If you want to reach me, please feel free to reach out on my website, www.beccaspirit.com. I would love to hear from you, get any feedback, and know what's on your mind. Until next time, take great care.